Plenty of people will tell you to follow your dreams, including myself. It's a big part of my upcoming book, Rebel. But very few people will tell you the reality of what pursuing your dream looks like, both the good and the bad. And that's why I absolutely love book 11 of 52 this year, The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. This is a reread for me. I read this a few years back, and it is technically a novel. It is probably one of the few fiction books I'll have on my list this year because it really is a beautiful personal development book hidden inside of a story. So it's a fable, in my opinion, and it fits with what I'm trying to do in my personal 52 book challenge, which is supposed to be nonfiction personal development books. But this is one of the greatest personal development books ever written, and it is hidden inside of this beautiful, charming story of a young shepherd who goes in search of his treasure and his dream, and the incredible winding story along the way, and the characters he meets and the things he learns. What I love about this book, I'm going to quote a few of the lines here in a second, is how absolutely hopeful and yet honest this book is. It feels like one of the most real moments inside of a person's mind being uncovered for us. That's what it feels like. It doesn't feel like platitudes, although there are very beautiful, simple lines of wisdom written in it that could be read if you're critical or cynical like a fortune cookie. But if you read the story, it is so honest and so real. And even the main character, his thoughts just continue to expose his doubt and his uncertainty. And I appreciate that as a human being that's not a robot. And I feel like I'm learning and journeying alongside him. So this book has an incredible story, even how the book became so famous, but it's one of the best-selling books of all time. I think it was listed as one of the top 10 books of the 20th century. But let me just read you sort of what this book is about. Everyone, when they are young, knows what their personal legend is. Okay, their personal legend. That's the way he calls like your destiny, your dream, your purpose. At that point in their lives, everything is clear and everything is possible. They are not afraid to dream and to yearn for everything they would like to see happen to them in their lives when you're young. But as time passes, a mysterious force begins to convince them that it will be impossible for them to realize their personal legend. Okay? As the main character navigates, he works and spends some time in a merchant shop, helping a merchant sell more of his wares. And he has this interesting relationship with him. And he's helped this guy improve his business. And the merchant asks him this really beautiful and honest question for a guy who's had some success and he's older in life and he's settling down. He says, why ask more out of life? And it's such a realistic question that a realist would ask. And all of us can be realists. There's a season in our life where we're like, you know what? My life is pretty good. Why ask more out of it? And I love how the book gets more honest and gets deep because the merchant's dream was to go visit Mecca. He's a Muslim, and part of his desire was one day to make the journey to Mecca in person. But he said he's not going to do it. And he says, I'm afraid that if I do it and my dream is realized, I'll have no reason to go on living. What an honest statement. And then he also says this to the main boy who's brought him a lot of success working for him. He says, you've brought a lot of blessings to me today. Every blessing, though, ignored becomes a curse, I've learned. I don't want anything else in life. But you are forcing me to look at wealth and at horizons I've never known. Now that I've seen them and now that I see how immense my possibilities are, I'm going to feel worse than I did before you arrived because I know the things I should be able to accomplish and I don't want to do so. Like, what an honest statement. Here's someone who's has a person come into his life that expands his mind, tells him he can dream, he should chase his dreams, and it improves his life. And so this guy gets a taste of it, and yet it burdens him all the more because he's like, I don't have the energy to pursue my dream. And I know what I could pursue, and I know what I could have, and I don't want to. I don't want to know that it exists or that it's possible for me. I just want to be content. If you've ever struggled with contentment versus dreaming and ambition, You'll understand. I think it's just beautifully honest. And then the main character, I'll kind of end here. Throughout his story, and throughout the book, multiple times he's like, you know what? I think I'm just going to give up. My life's pretty good. I've gotten pretty far in this journey. Maybe I haven't reached where I was hoping to go, but I've gotten pretty far. Maybe I should just be happy here. And I have felt that. But then he has this moment that even though it's been really great, he's like, this wasn't really his dream. He's like, you know what? I know what my dream was. I've got to pursue it. He says, I can always go back to being a shepherd, the boy thought, to care for sheep. I know how to do that. I haven't forgotten how that's done, but maybe I'll never have another chance to get to the pyramids in Egypt, which is part of his personal legend, his journey, his dream. He has to reach the pyramids, and you'll understand why when you read the book. And I love that option that we all have. You could always go back to what you were doing before. You can always go back to what you're doing before, but there's some things that you can only do once or only pursue once. And if you sense that moment is drawing near, you have to pursue that moment. So, so important. And then the last thing I want to read, because I think this is beautiful, there's a moment in the book where the main character is having a conversation with his heart. So Paulo personifies his heart as he's actually having a conversation with his heart. So here is, you got to stretch your mind a little bit to understand sort of what's going on here. But this is the heart speaking back to him. Everyone on earth has a treasure that awaits him, his heart said. We, people's hearts, seldom say much about those treasures because people no longer want to go in search of them. We speak of them only to children. Later, we simply let life proceed in its own direction toward its own fate. But unfortunately, very few follow the path laid out for them, the path to their personal legends and to happiness. Most people see the world as a threatening place, and because they do, the world turns out indeed to be a threatening place. The Alchemist is one of those books that will delight you, challenge you, and remind you to be a child. Like Jesus talks about it in the scriptures a lot, like the way to enter his kingdom is to have childlike faith, to come like a child. What is a child like? They're trusting. They're dreamers. They're humble. They ask for help. They don't have it all figured out. They're not too stubborn and crusty yet. There's something, they have wonder, right? There's something beautiful about pursuing the dreams, the desires that God's put in your heart, even if you don't know how to get there, because you're stepping into the way you were designed, there's so much more to come as I start to unpack my book, Rebel, as it's coming out this year that I can't wait to share with you. But this book just fires me up, and it just makes me smile. It's like the most delightful read, and I'll read it over and over again. So I encourage you to read it and see what it speaks to you. It's just one of those beautiful books, and there's a reason why it's become a cult favorite all over the world. The Alchemist, Paulo Coelho, such a great, great read. Love it, love it, love it. Pursue your dream and your personal legend, even if you feel torn along the way. It's real. Thanks for listening. I hope this was helpful for you. Let me know if you've read The Alchemist. I know many of you have. If you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment below. And I have another one coming up, another book review I'll be dropping in a day or two because I'm catching up on last week. I didn't post one because I was on a trip with the fam and the phone was off, the internet was off. It was great. So catching up on this, but I've still been reading a book a week. So hopefully you have as well. See you on the next episode.